Flashback 8, Infiltrating Prion BioTech. Flashback 8.0, Faraday cages and Rohypnol. We were descending onto our landing strip in our not-so-glorious run-down cargo plane. Tiny, of the Knights Templar, piloted our old cargo RV airplane, with its lowercase KT etched on its tail wing, and of course, the little T resembled a Christian holy cross, as befitting a plane of the Knights Templar, defenders of God. It seemed almost silly to even etch anything onto an so-called incognito airplane. I felt like we were out of place, landing in our cargo old plane in Prague's big international airport, but no one seemed to care or pay any attention to us. We landed and then taxied off the main strip, off onto a windy path spanning the airfield, and then up and across an overpass above a road below us, and then onward to a big, wide-open plane parking lot, where we were parked between two giant 747 jetliners. Our tiny little cargo plane being parked between 747 jets was intimidating, but it was beneficial. It was obfuscating. It seemed unlikely that anyone would notice our tiny plane amidst an ocean of gigantic, long-term looking massive jet planes in storage. Sarah smiled. We live in this RV cargo plane from now on. No hotel. We will live here. In the airport, in the storage lot, she emphasized. Living on your plane is against airport rules, so everyone be covert. Tiny will register the airplane. He is a freelance freight airplane pilot, and officially, he is the only passenger of this plane. She scanned the room, making sure everyone was acknowledging her words. She added, "And, by the way, you should know, we have what's called a Faraday cage around this airplane. So unless we have a plane radio relay system activated, all radio signals are blocked from leaving or entering the airplane. When the Faraday cage relay is off, all communications are off. Also, that means radar and detection systems cannot see anything inside the airplane. But they can see the outside of the airplane. We're not a stealth vehicle." Sarah smiled, but the plane does have random heat generator pods throughout. It throws off thermal detectors. They will be unable to identify anything, including people, inside the vehicle from thermal imagery or signatures. That is enough for us to hide from plain sight or cameras as long as we're inside. And when we go outside, we just have to be hidden. Sarah then recommended we can roll in and out in Tiny's van. His van also has a Faraday cage and thermal disruptors. Tiny's van is likewise a covert Faraday vehicle. Secrecy is on our side until we choose to lose it. We knew that we needed security camera access. We knew that we needed security building access. We needed total security access to the companies that we were to infiltrate. And so we assigned the companies to teams of 2. Well, except that we were one person short, with Tiny being the driver and pilot for the plane. And so Sarah said, "I can go alone. I prefer it, actually." Each team was to gain access to their company's building or buildings, depending what they had, so that we could infiltrate and take whatever we felt we needed. That we could upload a virus and destroy all of their cloud data as well as their local area data. And we could blow up the entire facilities with all data centers and backups utterly demolished. In addition to our normal gear, Deputy Taylor provided everyone with a vial containing a drug called Rohypnol. She said it's known as a roofie, a classic date rape drug. She explained to everybody Rohypnol will make the consumer feel and act extremely drunk, so intoxicated that they can be guide carried outside or anywhere, and people around them will simply think they're drunk. It rendered them near and mid-term memory unable to function. They couldn't store anything into long-term memory. Short could not become mid-term memory. Therefore, its victims would not remember anything. Like they had amnesia from anesthesia. It was a total blank in time for them. Deputy Taylor advised that we should consider using Rohypnol to secure access badges and the such, in the most non-violent and potentially public-tolerant way. It seemed wrong to me, but the alternatives, well, they have been worse so far. Drugging someone, while terrible, seemed a lot better than beating and hurting someone, much less killing them. And Deputy Taylor would not want any witnesses, I imagined. Tiny removed flight straps from his blazing taxi's black van and lowered the cargo plane's rear loading ramp. And he entered the van and drove it in reverse down the ramp and out the plane. We descended the ramp, entering the van with him. Tiny flipped a switch near the visor and then pressed a button on a key fob remote control. The loading ramp on the plane raised, following, depressing the button on his key fob. Tiny said, "Faraday on, plane locked." And we were on the move. Through the airport security gate where they just waved Tiny through. They seemed to know him or his van. I presumed it must have been registered before we landed. We continued through some meandering roads and merged onto a multi-lane large roadway. We all appeared to the locals as one of three things, I imagined, because of our very visible wearing of non-local foreign attire and accessories. We were either tourists. Prague drew both European and American tourism. Or we could be actors. Prague was an established alternative Hollywood filming location. Or we could be business people. There was a sizable foreign business investment in Prague. Again, entertainment, technologies, all sorts of things. In the eyes of the locals, though, we were foreigners, and therefore we were automatically suspect of unpredictable behavior or goals. Yes, locals seemed to all be watching us. They had their eyes on us. I declared to the team, "Here we go. Operation Building Access. Search and Steal is underway." I chuckled. Well, I guess it could be search and secure versus search and steal. But it feels more like we're stealing, but for a righteous cause. So let's do a final gear check. Let's everyone make sure we have everything we need for this in-public segment of our mission. I reminded everyone. And remember, try not to be noticed as much as you can. We're tourists. We're going to stand out, but only as stupid tourists. Being stupid can work in our favor. We can wander into inappropriate locations as ignorant and stupid tourists. Tiny pulled the van over street side and said, "Move on, energy, Sarah." Sarah smiled and smoothly exited the vehicle. She merged with a pedestrian crowd, blending in as a tourist. Tiny pulled over later, street side again, and said, "Graf in Labza, Katie Taylor." Katie thanked Tiny as she exited the vehicle, sidewalk side, not facing the street. Deputy Taylor followed Katie out the same sidewalk side door. They, like Sarah, merged with a pedestrian crowd trying to blend in as tourists. Tiny pulled over street side one last time and said, "Prion BioTech, Bob Ricka." Bob said, "Okay, let's do this." He cumbersomely exited the vehicle, and I followed.